Hey, Smart Authors, welcome back to another episode of the Smart Author Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, who owns and operates Auroras Financial and is just an absolute legend when it comes to marketing, business growth, strategy, making more profit in business, all the things that we love to know more about. So in today's episode, we do a bit of a deep dive into how he's actually able to market and make millions of dollars off the back of his book without being able to advertise on platforms like Facebook, and generally just not advertising his book much at all. He outlined his book writing process that's currently helping him write 3 books per year by himself and with different business partners that he has. So it's kind of like Dan Sullivan-esque, which is really cool. And basically, the whole process he went through to launch his book and business and kind of just cut through the noise and get as much attention and attraction for his new business when it launched in 2017. So I think you'll really enjoy this episode if you are interested in any of those things and even just getting an understanding of some of the more like money and number side of things, generally when it comes to marketing and business growth and whatnot. So enjoy the episode, look forward to hearing what you think, and can't wait for you to check it out. Hey, Jackson, welcome to Smart Author Podcast.
Chris, thanks for having me, mate.
So I am a big fan of yours and the several books that you've written, and I've been lucky enough to attend a couple of your training sessions in the flesh and then online as well. And I think that you just have a lot of perspective to share with this audience around being an author and being an author who doesn't kind of go by the standard kind of accolades and things like that. You just kind of publish good content consistently and you do it in many different formats. So first of all, I'd love to just jump into, who you are and a bit of your background and kind of how you became an author today.
Yes, love to, mate. So I'm Jackson Milan. I'm also known as the Wealth Mentor. I am the founder of Aureus Financial, and Aureus Financial helps 6- and 7-figure service businesses maximize their profit, improve their cash flow, and systematically turn their business profit into personal wealth so they can create financial freedom faster. And at our core, we basically help our clients with 4 things. We help them with their tax and accounting to ensure that they never pay any bonuses to the ATO. And of course, we keep them out of jail. Secondly, we help them create a strategic wealth plan that ensures that they can create financial freedom, ideally in 10 years or less. Thirdly, we then link that to their business financial operating system when we show them how they can squeeze more profit and cash flow out of their business so they can then use that to then build wealth. And then fourthly, we're big believers in property. You and I both love property, mate, but we know for so many business owners, the biggest limit to their ability to build a successful multi-7-figure property portfolio is being able to borrow the money from the bank. Now, many business owners, they go to the bank and they say, hey, I'd like to borrow this money. And they say, sorry, computer says no. So what we help them do is create a strategic lending plan and also use tax structures and special purpose vehicles in order to maximize their borrowing capacity so they can build the property portfolio of their dreams. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. Now, this started like 16 years ago. My parents were business owners. They both were very, very good at what they did, but they sucked with money. And I realized that just being good at what you do doesn't guarantee you financial freedom. In fact, my parents lived kind of hand to mouth all of my childhood. So I started training to become a financial advisor when I left school. And frankly, I hated it, mate. It was the worst. It was the polar opposite of what I thought it was going to be. It was really helping either wealthy people get wealthier or selling commission-based products to people like my parents who quite frankly didn't need them and certainly wasn't going to help them create financial freedom. So I kind of went on a mission to be the kind of anti-financial advisor. I started calling myself a wealth coach. I built an educational-based syllabus, and then that's basically evolved into my now 4 international best-selling books. And it's been, I guess, the cornerstone of how we've got our IP and utilize that IP in order to create now an 8-figure business. So it's been quite a journey.
And I love the most that you've been able to create multiple, 7-figure, 8-figure businesses alongside like the main one as well. And I think that
Yes.
that is a testament, because it's like, I think if anyone works hard enough, they could probably create one 7-figure business, but like replicating success and like having kind of a proven systematic way of doing that is very different, you know?
I agree with you, mate. And this is now, I think, my 9th or 10th multi-7-figure business. And obviously, given the group that we run, we've got an arbitrage strategy that allows us to get an 8-figure valuation. So the next big hit for us is how do we get to 8 figures in cash collected? So I'm working on that, chasing down that $1 million a month, mate. That's the next big goal for me.
The elusive $1 million a month.
That's it. We'll get there.
So, well, man, I think it's epic what you're doing. And just before we continue, the people that you work with, are they primarily Australians, or do you work with other people in other countries?
Yeah, I'd say just geographically where we are, primarily our clients are Australian. We do work with international businesses, but our scope is limited. Of course, we can't do their tax. We can't provide them with specific financial advice. We can't do mortgages for them. So typically it's just the education and the profit coaching and basically teaching them about money and wealth. So I've got clients at the moment. I've got a client that's in Dubai who runs a very successful, almost 8-figure business. And a lot of it is just about helping these people understand how do they hold on to their hard-earned money. Because here's the thing, Chris. Ultimately, when business owners crack the code of making money, the next biggest problem they need to solve is how do they keep it and make it work for them. And the big issue is that for so many business owners, whether they be 6 figures, 7 figures, even up to 9-figure businesses that I've worked with, their businesses can become cash-eating monsters. And unless we can implement a system that allows us to tame that monster and then divert that energy to putting that money to work, then there's no guarantee of them creating financial freedom either. So that's really our area of expertise. So how do we help them optimize what they've already got and be able to make more profit and build more wealth without having to sign more clients or get more leads?
Yeah, love that. So you and I both know the value of books, generally speaking, and more so more recently, the impact it can have on businesses and even how you stand out in a marketplace. But I'd love to go back to like when you were thinking about writing your first book. Why did that even come around? Like, why did Jackson go, oh, I need a book, or I should have a book to, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be an author, mate. I just didn't know what it took. Right, I didn't have a framework, I didn't have a system, and I didn't know where to start. And prior to starting Aureus, I was an owner in a franchise, and we scaled that business to number 1. And we had 2 franchises, number 1 and number 2 in the country. And the franchise had a really good reputation at the time. So we kind of rode on the coattails of that, as you do with a franchise. You kind of bought into the brand, so you don't have to build the brand yourself. And we kind of got to a point whereby we got those businesses as far as we could possibly get them. The values of the franchise started to change, and we were misaligned. So I decided to sell those businesses, and that's what led me to go and start Aureus in 2017. And I realized that I wanted to build a brand. I wanted to create reputation because I saw the value of having that brand, of how easy it was to sign up clients when people believed in the mission and the vision that you had created. It was kind of behind what you do, the thing that kind of separated you from the guy next door, right? And I knew that in order to do that, I needed to pursue thought leadership. So the first thing I started doing as soon as I was in the process of selling my business and in the kind of lead up to launching Aureus, I started authoring my book. And my first book, which is called Enjoy the Journey, Creating Wealth and Living the Life That You Desire, it took me about a month to write. So I went to Brazil with my partner, Anna, and I took a month off and I wrote that book in a month. And I thought that was a pretty good job. And then I come back and I published that, and we used basically that PR off the back of the launch of that book in order to get the kind of rocket fuel behind the Aureus brand. And I did a national PR tour. I was on the Today Show. I was on Studio 10. I was on kind of Sydney Morning Herald, Money Magazine, all of the major publications, not just in Australia, but internationally. And it basically just put us on the map. And it was really, I guess it served a couple of things. One, it was an opportunity for me to really refine my intellectual property into our signature solution that we call the Wealth Mastery Machine, and that we've used to help our clients build over $3 billion in combined wealth. So I understood I needed to kind of productize that positioning. So that was the first part, which was really valuable for that. Second part was obviously the social proof. getting that book to being an international bestseller in 8 countries across 15 categories, and coupled with the PR tour, it took us from being a no one into being somebody straight away. And the third part was this law of reciprocation, Chris. Like I give all of my IP away for free. Like you only have to go read my Facebook posts or watch my videos on any social media platform or read my books. And I literally give away everything. And if you've got the intrinsic drive and motivation to go and implement it, you will be super successful. But the reality is, as they say, you give the information away for free and then people will pay you for the implementation. And that's been a cornerstone of our success.
So do you really think that like legitimately the book has been the driver behind everything and the success that you've had at Aureus?
Definitely. And I guess the big thing was, and here was my biggest mistake, that first book was to a mass market audience, right? Because when I was with the franchise, although we had we attracted high income professionals and business owners, that wasn't like innate in our positioning. It just kind of happened. And when we started Aureus, we kind of overlooked the idea of niching. So we were like, okay, let's just kind of do advice and help everyone with their finances. And I think even in the book, it says something along the line of ambitious Australians. Like, what the fuck does that mean? You know what I mean? So that was my biggest mistake, that I didn't niche hard enough. And that meant that we were getting people who could get value from the book, but weren't necessarily our ideal avatar, particularly when you're going on mainstream TV and the mainstream news and that kind of thing. We got tons of leads, thousands and thousands and thousands of leads, but the vast majority of them were not a good fit. And then it was through working with Taki Moore and kind of refining our signature solution that we ultimately decided to double down on business owners, which then led me to writing my second book, Secrets to Scaling a 7-Figure Lifestyle Business. And I did that while I was traveling around Australia in a 4-wheel drive, running my business from the road, and basically trying to prove that my business wouldn't kind of spontaneously combust in my absence. And in fact, it actually skyrocketed, and I phased myself out of the business over 12 months. I documented the whole system I used to do that. And although I'm not a business coach, I kind of like gave people an insight into what it means to be like a multi-7-figure CEO. And then we use that to kind of funnel in ideal clients. So that was really where we hit our mark in terms of positioning. And that's probably been one of my best lead magnets that I've had since we started Aureus. And then I kind of realized, okay, great. That book took me about 2 weeks to write. How do I then create a workflow where I can try and publish 3 books a year? So then I published The Family Vault, How to Create Generational Wealth and Keep It. And then I published 7-Figure Profits, which is co-authored with one of my business partners. So my plan is to basically write 3 books a year for the rest of my life. That is the plan.
Cool.
And I know that for every book that I publish, it's another invaluable piece of marketing collateral that allows me to get perfect fit clients basically on tap. Yeah.
So your like thought process is cool. Here's a list of all the people who would be ideal clients. And then like, how can I just cover like a book on each topic that would attract those kind of people?
Correct. Nailed it. And I'm getting even more specific in each book, where I want to solve a really specific problem for a really specific kind of person. And as you've probably seen, our positioning has continued to increase to target more of that kind of 7 and 8 figure audience. And from my book, the biggest client I got was running a 9-figure business. So it just goes to show that it's just such a valuable asset. And the interesting thing, mate, that I realized, that affluent people, if you are dealing in an affluent market, and you can write something that's really valuable to them, and you know how to write properly and create vernacular around your frameworks, you get these people speaking your language before you even had an opportunity to meet them. And even better, you turn them into a friend before they've met you. And it's just interesting to see the rapport that I have with people who've read my books and have gone and implemented it, that they speak the lingo. I'm very open around my personal life, so I talk very openly and honestly in my books about my experience and how I live my life. So they're so deeply indoctrinated by the time they come through the funnel that it's just easy. It's so easy.
Yeah. I actually, so I found about found out about you through Matt Wolf and Joe Fear's podcast a number of years ago, Hustle and Flowchart. Because we did a little collab period where we partnered on our software with them. But anyway, like I've been listening to those guys since like 2018 or something. So it was like, it's always cool to hear Aussies come through, and man, even just after listening to an hour of you guys just talk smack on a podcast and like really cool, good information, I was just like, man, I need to meet Jackson and like reach out. And that's actually how I think we initially got connected. And I didn't even know you were in Taki's circle and all that kind of stuff. But it's just it coincidentally happens, I think. And we actually made a correlation on a past episode on the Smart Author podcast with Daniel Den, and the correlation was there's a direct correlation between consumption and the amount of money people will spend with you. So if someone like reads all of your books, how likely are they going to be to want to work with you on implementation? Or if someone listens to like all of your guest podcasts or even your own show, how likely are they going to be to want to work with you in the future? It's like the more that they listen to you, the more that they consume your content, the higher chance and higher likely that they'll be willing to spend more money with you over time.
100%. And I've proven it time and time again, where I've had people who've listened to my audiobooks or read the books engage me for $100,000 a year coaching programs. And it's just like these are people who are running multi 8-figure or 9-figure businesses who realize the financial chaos that they're in. And in many cases, the opportunity of implementing our systems is worth millions to them per year. And of course, they're going to pay me $100,000 to get those outcomes. However, they would have been very apprehensive to invest that kind of money on a whim unless I'd been able to prove my philosophies and my systems through my thought leadership in the book. And it just goes to show it shortens the time frame to getting those kinds of results. But on the flip side of that, a book is far more memorable than consuming any other kind of content. So, for example, I had a guy who read my first book like nearly 7 years ago now, and he came on board as a client 12 months ago. And he's like, hey, I read your first book. It was amazing. I knew it just wasn't the right time, but I added you on Facebook and I knew that I was going to work with you someday, and now's the time. And I'm like, oh, cool. That's great. So it just goes to show that not only does it shorten the cash conversion cycle, but it keeps you top of mind and relevant for longer because of just I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the right word for it is stigma, but there's a certain value that's placed on being an author. And I think people place a certain weight above and beyond other mediums.
Yeah. Yeah. My two favorite mediums are podcasting and books, because they've just like, for me, they've been super impactful as a consumer and a host. I'm not a book writer yet, but like, an author yet, but just generally books in general have just been, they're such great ways to portray information, mechanisms, everything that's in your head, and something that people can tangibly follow and get results from. But wholeheartedly, like books, like I would much rather be a book marketer than like a podcast marketer, as an example.
Yes.
Just because of, again, the stigma. I think you said it right. For me, it's 100 times more effective than a podcast could be.
I agree. And I think it's one of these things, right, that not everybody, I think everybody has the potential to write a book. One of my good friends, Rob Cosberg, said to me, everyone's got a book in them, right? It's just a matter of getting it out. But a lot of people don't have what it takes to get it out. And I think you are part of an elite club when you are an author, particularly if you're a multiple-time author. And once again, it positions you well ahead of your competition of those people who have not invested the blood, sweat, and tears to create and craft their IP and create a book and leverage it. Because I think a book as a standalone, all of these books would be worthless to me if I did not put in the effort and energy to market them. And I must say, probably not marketed them as well as you could have, Chris, but we're going to fix that. But it becomes just a paperweight and a whole waste of time unless you put it to work for you.
Yeah. And I think even to go further beyond that. Like so many people write a book and then try to build a business off of that. And it's like, it's the wrong way around. I mean, you already had the intentions when you launched your book to have the business launch alongside it, which is the right thing to do. Or better yet, have a really good business with proven, sales, processes and all that kind of stuff. And then have a book as like rocket fuel on that. But so many people are like, yeah, I've got a book. I want to create a speaking career out of it. I want to, create some programs, and it's just like the intention's there, but there's nothing set. And it's like, cool, you've got pretty much like a useless asset.
Exactly. And look, I've made these mistakes too, mate. When I first launched the book, I'm like, okay, I want to make royalties from the book, right? And it was the ego talking. I'm like, okay, the book cost me like 10 or 15 grand plus the thing, let's call it, maybe cost me 30 or 40 grand to do the PR and all of the launch and everything like that. The royalties must pay back that investment. And it was so short-sighted. And like, it was just, people don't make money from their book, right? And the pivotal moment for me was realizing that I should give the book away for free as far and wide to as many possible people as I could and utilize it as an asset in order to open conversations and once again, speed up the sales velocity. And like, we originally started with book funnels, and we were very quickly banned from Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg has a photo of me on his most wanted poster on his wall. I'm certain of it. We've tried to.
He's got the dartboard with your face on it.
He does. He does. We've tried to circumvent it in so many ways, and it doesn't matter what we try. He still knows that it's me, and I get banned immediately. So we went from like spending quite a bit amount of money on paid ads to having everything come to a grinding halt. So we kind of went old school. Like, we went kind of Dream 100 style, posting people books, like sending them boxes of like 10 books. I'm like, hey, like one book someone could throw away. But if I send them a box of 10 books, they're going to be pissed and they're going to like remember me. They're going to like, who's this Jackson guy? And why the fuck did he send me 10 books? Who am I going to give these books to? Like, they're going to feel guilty throwing out 10 books. So they're going to have to give them away, or they're going to sit there and they're going to remember me every day. Like, we did lots of kind of guerrilla marketing stuff. But one of the most impactful strategies that we implemented is basically, as soon as a good prospect comes in through into our CRM, the sales team will have a conversation with them and then get their address and post them the books for free. And it just creates this goodwill. All 4 now. We send them all 4.
Cool.
And what's that cost us? Like $40 plus postage, $50. But that $50 invested creates so much goodwill that it pays over like multiple times. So there's so many creative things that you can use a book for. Sure, the book funnels are fantastic to generate leads, but increasing conversion rate, creating personalization, maximizing referrals. We've done so many things with the book. It's a tremendous asset for growing the business.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of people get hung up when they can't actually afford to advertise or physically can't advertise. They're just like, oh, I'll just post on social media about it. It's like, there's so many other things you could do, or like, they just go and do podcasts and talk about the book. And it's like, that's effective, but that's like one small slither of an angle that you can use it for,
Yes, exactly right. You just got to get creative and take ideas from other people. And look, I think even if you do have the benefit of doing paid advertising on Meta, because it is really easy, and I think a lot of people have got lazy with it. I think you constantly need to ask yourself the question, what would I do if I was completely banned from paid advertising tomorrow? And it was the reality for me, and it's the reality for many people. And I've seen businesses fail as a result of not being able to pivot fast enough. So it's my belief that every business should have ideally at least 7 lead strategies, that we should never have any more than a 15% reliance on any single source. And it's just about making sure that we've got the ability to pivot. And once again, you can just use that same book funnel, that same strategy, and just implement it in so many different ways to achieve that result of getting 7 lead pathways.
Yeah. So beyond Facebook ads, I know you're doing Amazon ads, but that's obviously hasn't been super long doing that. Are you doing any other advertising for the book?
Yeah, so TikTok was our biggest platform, and it's funny. I've always been kind of a bit of someone who would challenge the status quo. I don't like to do things that everyone else does. Call it my ego, but I'm kind of out to prove that there's different ways to do things. So we have a very successful TikTok advertising campaign that does about 600% ROAS, and I guess we are having challenges scaling those campaigns because it's a new platform and the audience isn't super big. But everyone thought that TikTok was just dancing kids, and our client is typically 7 figures or bigger from TikTok, which is really interesting.
Wow.
So I think we've in the last 12 months we've done about 1.2 million in sales from TikTok.
Cool.
So and we're continuing to scale those campaigns. But the big thing that we did when we got banned on ads for Meta, we went all in on joint ventures. So our biggest driver, and we've probably produced $5 or $6 million in sales since we started Aureus, is joint venture partnerships and utilizing the book, the podcast, and speaking as a way to leverage other people's audiences. So that's been one of the most powerful strategies that we've discovered and has just been a massive driver for success. And the great thing about JVs is that in many cases you don't need to pay at all. Or if you do, you pay after the sale has been completed. Whereas paid ads, we've got to front all of that cost up front, right? And it's all experimentation and testing until you nail it. Whereas with joint ventures, you can leverage a relationship, and then you can take somebody else's audience, put a really great presentation that's built around your book or your IP, use the book as an opportunity to get those people from that presentation onto your email list, and essentially then take those opportunities into your programs or products. And for many joint venture partners, they might take a commission on the back end. Some don't even want to. They just want you to take care of their clients and their list. Yep. So it's a super profitable strategy, and it's slept on for so many modern day business owners.
Yeah, I like to offer typically like 10% referrals to JVs, or I'll be like, if you don't want it, I'll just give you the person 10% off. So it's just like goodwill, passing it forward kind of thing. And most of them will go, yeah, like just give them 10% off and like look after them, obviously, and they're very happy for that, because then it just 100%. Creates more reciprocity and goodwill in the marketplace.
I agree, mate. And it's just a great strategy. It does require a bit more time, and you've got to have a system in order to nurture those relationships and show them exactly how JVs work, because most people have lots of JV conversations and they go nowhere because neither party has any idea what a good JV looks like. And that was the key for us of how do you create a winning JV system that makes them look like a hero first and foremost, that's really simple and easy. So you give them the playbooks, you give them swipe files, you show them the proven process. And 3, there needs to be some sort of incentive, where it might be a referral fee, it could be a discount to their members, or it could be making them look really good and delivering a whole lot of value. And if you nail those 3 things, there's at least 7 figures in JV opportunity that exists without a huge amount of effort.
Love that. What's next for Jackson? Like, what books do you have in the works? Are you on track for your one per quarter at the moment?
I am, mate. Yeah, so I've got 2 more books in draft. So one is just being reviewed by one of my business partners who I'm co-authoring that book with, and hopefully that should launch by the end of the financial year here in Australia. And I've got another book in draft, which I'm refining, which will hopefully come out towards the tail end of the year. So I definitely will have hit my my quota for the year, and I've already got my mapped out of the next 100 books that I want to write. So essentially, it's just about chipping through and working through it and refining the system, making it less time and less effort, and improving the quality of the output. And I'm passionate about it. I find it as a cathartic process, and it just turns into being an amazing marketing asset afterwards, which is just a bonus for me. I think if the opposite were true and I didn't enjoy the process and it was just for the marketing asset, I'd probably find it a whole lot more difficult. But because I'm a creator at heart and I enjoy refining my intellectual property and getting it out there and sharing it with the world, it's a pretty easy process for me, mate. So I'm going to try and chase down those 100 books pretty quick.
Cool. Well, your process do you find that you end up refining as you're writing the book, or is it quite refined beforehand?
Yeah, so I created this idea of book skeleton, and that's the hardest part for me. If I essentially have got a Google sheet with a proven structure that basically allows me to get my kind of ideation down pat. I've got a really clear avatar or a problem I'm trying to solve, and then all of my chapters basically become the pillars of what I'm trying to solve for. I then break down the kind of key topics that I want to cover, which basically becomes my kind of bullet points and kind of components of each chapter. And then essentially I've kind of mapped out the why, the how, and the now as a result of each of those chapters. So I've essentially got the whole book kind of mapped out on a page. And that whole process might take me a day or two to do. And then what I usually do is I'll try and write 2,500 words, 2,000 to 3,000 words a day. And that essentially gets me to a good sized book over 2 weeks. So it's a relatively refined process. And the idea is, because this is all my kind of wheelhouse, it's just a paint by numbers thing, right? And I just kind of fill in the blanks. And if I get bored with one section, I just jump to another. And then I kind of circle back. The hardest book that I wrote was the Generational Wealth book, because I don't have kids. And I've never been an inheritor of wealth. I don't plan to have kids. So it was very much going and doing the research and then accounting on other people's perspective and then using that to kind of align with the principles and philosophies that I created. But all of the other books have been a breeze because it's bread and butter stuff that we do every day.
Yeah, cool. Well, love it, dude. Well, I'm looking forward to your new books coming out, and I'm certainly looking forward to offering some advice on Amazon ads and just helping you prop it up a little bit more, because the more people with your books, I think, the better in Australia, at least, for sure.
I appreciate that, mate. Thanks for all your help.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for coming on, Jackson. Where can people check out everything you're doing?
Yes. So if you're a 6 or 7 figure business owner and you want to make sure that you're making the most of your hard earned, taking that business profit, turning it into personal wealth, I've put together a 40-point financial performance scorecard, which basically goes through all the things you need to do to improve your trajectory to financial freedom. So if you go to wealthhealthcheck.com.au, that's wealthhealthcheck.com.au, complete the scorecard, you'll get a customized report specific to you and your business. You'll also get all of my books, and you'll be able to connect with me on all of the social media platforms from there. And if you'd like our help in improving those business profits and creating wealth faster, you can feel free to get in touch from there as well.
Awesome. That'll be linked down below for everyone here. And thanks for listening to the Smart Author Podcast. Damn, what an awesome episode. If you've got a book that you're advertising or not yet advertising, and you want some book marketing advice directly from me, I'd love to set up a book marketing review with you. It's basically a 30-minute consulting session that you can get for free, worth $1,000, where we can basically dive right into everything that you're currently doing or not doing, and everything that you could do to sell as many books as possible according to your goals. So if you want to sell 100 books a month, 1,000 books a month, or anything in between, we can really help you outline a strategy to help you get there. To book your session with me, just click the link in the description below, smartauthormedia.com/chat, and you'll be able to book a time that suits you to go through everything with me so that we can help you sell some more books starting today. Look forward to speaking to you on the call.